Good afternoon, everyone. And look at that. There's some smiles on the faces. It's finished at the King Power Stadium. Leicester City 6. I'll say that again. Leicester City 6. Queen's Park Rangers 2. Bit of a bonkers game because I'll be honest with you, for most of the game, this is what I was seeing. I felt I was playing Silent Hill. Here are some pictures that some of the community have sent in to us. This was pre-match, and this is from Kate in the ground. She's like, I have no idea what's happening. If you guys could let us know, please do. But what a tonic that was. Summer's just a tonic. Luke, all aboard the deluded we're staying up train. Plenty more. As a good friend said, bend the knee, QPR. What a crazy game that was. I'm really not sure what to make of it. So, Luke, I'll start with you. I'm just going to show you some stats. So I finished 6-2. James Justin scoring twice. You can actually see in terms of possession, it's pretty close. And here's sort of interesting things why this game I felt was kind of bizarre. So we actually only had 10 shots the entire game, right? But scored 6 goals. That's pretty impressive. We only had 2 corners. QPR had 6. They had 8 shots themselves. It was an even game at some parts. The scoreline doesn't show that at all. I do think QPR didn't do anything at all in the second half other than give us goals. Kind of crazy. Here was some of the match ratings you can see as well. You can see, look at that. They had a pretty bad day at the back there. We can talk about some of our players here. I mean, look, it's funny how some of our defenders really turned up today. And the momentum bar, I mean, this, to be honest with you, does look like a Leicester City game this season, except it was us that scored the 6 goals, not giving them away. So, Luke, talk to me. What did you make of Leicester City 6, QPR 2?
Guys, I need to try and curb my enthusiasm a little bit because it is, with all due respect, again, QPR in the championship, but who cares? Fuck it. Let's just all spunk ourselves. That was obviously a really good performance. I think what would be really interesting for you, Anil, is obviously trying to do the analysis of the haunted King Power with all the fog today. But I think a lot of our chances actually on transition came from wide and then dished out into the middle, which is interesting to see. Very different to what we've seen in our build-up play unsuccessfully in the previous games of the Ruud van Nistelrooy. But, mate, I think that's really important. And I think now I'm very happy that we went strong because even everyone will say, oh, relax, it's just QPR. I don't think the players are going to be thinking like that mentality. And I think Ruud van Nistelrooy wanted to prove to them that, look, guys, if you can just keep working on it, it will work. And I think that's why he's gone strong so that we can go into that Crystal Palace game with some belief. So I'm really, really stoked of seeing the amount of goals that were scored today, and particularly James Justin of a brace. Brilliant for his confidence. Maybe he'll just be a right winger now when we get our new £4 land right back.
Yeah, a lot to say there. So I tell you what, I think I'll even start coming through. Let's just go straight through the players. We can talk about the game itself as well. Let's start with the starting lineup, actually. I'll come to you, Neil. So, I mean, it's quite a surprise that we went so strong. In the end, I suppose that paid off with the 6 goals. It was kind of funny because we were talking about pre-match and we were saying that even there was an argument to say that our team that started in the championship last season against QPR might actually have been stronger than this one. But do you think it was, in the end, worth it? I know that you were saying you're a bit concerned about it being, what if we got injuries? It looks like we've got away with it so far.
We have, and I think that was part of my things coming into it. That what happens if we get a big injury to a player? Yes, I understand, but again, if things went wrong in this game, then on to the next game, it's going to be even tougher because it's a second-string QPR team. They did manage to. There was parts of the game around, as the momentum shows, around 20 minutes when they scored about 1-1, where I was thinking, oh God, is it going to be one of those games where James Justin's going to look out of position? Are we going to get basically, did the team look lack of confidence? But overall, obviously, with it finishing 6-2, that wasn't the case. So I'm obviously glad that we won, but again, it's a right step in the right direction. But I'm happy I got proved wrong because I was saying again, if there was an injury to Vardy, it was an injury to El Khannouss, was it worth it for a game that doesn't mean anything?
Yeah, well, luckily that didn't happen, but I think that's kind of fair enough. Fair with this from Sean. Here's our record in the fog, guys. 1-1, 1-0 draws, 1 loss in the fog. Because obviously, Everton, I think we drew that game when we played with them. Yeah, so I think it's 1 win, 1 draw. But there we go. Let's do you know what? Let's maybe talk a little bit about QPR because I've got to say it's interesting. I think obviously in the second half, what did they do? They just gave away the penalty and it was game over. But I mean, if you look at the stats, I mean, I was quite impressed by them in that first half. To be honest with you, I think they've improved a lot in the last year. or am I just being too generous? So it was funny because Andreas kept saying to me through the whole stream, "Have they signed Raphael Varane?" But it was Jonathan Varane in midfield that scored that goal for them. Let's just have a quick word for them. What did you make of them? Any standouts, or do you think we just made them look good, especially with set Mr. Harry Winks?
Nah, I mean, I think the first goal was Harry Winks' fault, right? You should never give your ball away at that point, part of the field. But a great shot from Varane can't take that away from him. Whereas the second one from Coady was just a straight up gift, right?
It was Winks for the second one as well, by the way.
Yeah, Winks as well. Yeah, I'm well aware he had an absolute nightmare game. But I thought they played well. I think as someone who has to spend quite some time with QPR fans when I play Football Manager with them, they have really been rejuvenated this about for a month, 2 months now, really. They've gone 11 games, only 1 loss, right? So they feel confident coming into this. They were teasing me this week saying, we're going to come to Leicester and we're going to give them a game. And they did so for 45 minutes, where I thought they did actually play well. You can see how they want to build up. They have some individual quality in there as well. Ilias Chair in particular, right? Obviously, every Leicester fan will know him from the time we've been linked with him down in the Championship. But you can definitely see that the quality isn't in the entire starting 11. Ashby dropped an absolute stinker that game. That right back giving away the ball multiple times and leading to multiple goals. He was being,
Harrison Ashby had the day to forget, didn't he? Gave the penalty away as well.
So I think overall, it's quite clear that QPR have some quality players. They have a quality style of play, but their starting 11 is just not up to snuff for a top side championship team. I think they'll finish around mid-table, maybe high mid-table championship, and that'll simply due to the lack or the golfing quality between their best players and their worst players.
Yeah, I got to say for me, I mean, I give them a respect, but I think it's the one thing that's just bad. Obviously, we've won the game, great. We've scored a lot of goals, great. It just is a shame, though, that we never even came close to having a clean sheet. And we just gave them some goals, and there's too many individual errors again, which is a bit unfortunate. But otherwise, certainly much more refreshing to talk about a win rather than another loss, as we've had 5 in a row. We'll talk about Ruud in a second. So I'm going to go through some of the players, and I'm actually going to start with this guy. I'm going to hand it over to Luke. So, yeah, it's funny because Sean's put here that Harrison Ashby for QPR had a JJS performance, but our JJ, I mean, you've got to say, I think we've got to spend quite some time. So he scored 2 goals today, but not just the 2 goals. So what did you make of James Justin's performance today, Luke?
What was really interesting was after that first goal, and he scored it, and you saw him on the ball back when he's not so further up the pitch. He looked a lot more confident on the ball, receiving it, passing. He got that little bit of extra oomph and confidence back, which I think was sorely needed. And then that second goal was an absolute pearler, mate. So I was really, really happy with JJ. Much needed game for his confidence. He's probably aware that we're looking for a right back, so this is his chance to try and solidify and keep his place in the team. Granted, again, I know it's QPR, but it doesn't matter, mate. For his head, it doesn't matter who he's playing against. I think that he had a really, really good game today. Obviously, in attack, how much would you say was that down to Connor Coady being in support instead of Wout Faes, or it's all about who was playing around him as well. But look, mate, for me, I think he had an excellent game, and I couldn't be happier for him because as poor as he's been, I don't hate the guy, and it's a shame to see where he's dropped from in previous form.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the quality of opposition that you're up against is always going to make a big difference. And he obviously had the absolute beating of Kenneth Paul on the other side. And I think, that he's also helped a little bit. Like Elias Chair is a good player going forwards. But this, for example, is one reason why I didn't think Enzo would ever sign a player like that. I think he's a bit lazy in terms of his defensive work. So JJ could get down that side. But what I will say, I think, you mentioned to me during the match, which is really interesting, that you felt with, the new fullback coming in, that Koulibaly, what's kind of interesting is that, does that put pressure on a player to change your performances? And this, I think, is the first time all season long that I've seen it. Like JJ actually looked like a really good attacking fullback. It wasn't just his goals. He got into the box time and time again. He was making passes. I saw him and Buonanotte, I think, combining quite well several times in the first half. That second goal he scored was top quality. That's what a top-class attacking fullback. That's Dani Alves-esque, taking the ball on the stride, hitting it, great finish. And I said this before, it's like, for example, there are other teams in the Premier League that play attacking fullbacks. The 2 that come to mind would be Aston Villa, who use Luca Digne in that way. And then you've also got Ipswich, who use Leif Davis. They do it on the left-hand side. And it's like, if you've got a player like that, then that attacking player has to be offering a lot in attack, making chances and being able to take goals. This time round, he actually did it. So he did very, very well. But for sure, he's done it against Championship opposition, not Premier League opposition. But how much of that is because he knew he had more of a safety net, that it was less likely to go wrong? There wasn't as much pressure. Interesting seeing some of the comments here, though. Tony saying JJ's still struggling to pass a parcel. Maybe I would say for me, I think he was still my man in a match today. Do you think JJ has played to the level he needs to be at every week? What do you make of that, Luke? Or do you think it's just, like I say, that is, more the quality of opposition, or a little bit of both?
I think, yeah, like you said, a little bit of column A and column B. The interesting thing to take is people might call this crazy, but if we were to sign another fullback and we don't have an out-and-out right winger and we're expected to be a bit more solid in transition in the Premier League, would you just keep him as your right winger, as someone that way he doesn't have to track all the way back and he can still be a threatening presence, but he can still be a defensive option on the right-hand side? Or do you think that's the most Australian thing I've ever said in my whole life?
It's difficult to say, didn't it? I think this is like a fair point. Did JJ have more space going forward because we played a narrow midfield? I think it's more the way that QPR set up is that they didn't really pay him enough respect. But look, overall, good game. And it was nice to see him smiling. I don't think I've seen him smile all season long. So that was really, really good to see. Let's go on to the other fullback then. It's your favourite man. He's got the shirt in the background. So, Duck, talk to me about Victor Kristiansen.
I thought he was good. I mean, it was hard to say during the first half, right? On the left side, it was nearly impossible to see, especially forward, who was doing what. So I can't really comment on that, but he looked solid defensively. I can't remember him being completely beaten by his man. I thought there was one time where he definitely should have gotten a free kick and didn't. He had a few good balls offensively. I in particular noticed the one that Buonanotte got where he put the cross in afterwards. Buonanotte didn't get the right cross, but a brilliant ball from VK. I think we saw a bit of his strength again, right? Because he does some things that Luke Thomas wouldn't do. These deep balls, these through balls, really. He got another one where Jordan Ayew barely couldn't get on it as well, or Patson Daka maybe, I can't remember. But I think, this time we saw a few more of his strengths. I thought he was really solid, but the first half can't comment much. Didn't see anything.
Sort out a decent barber, then extend his contract, says Luke. I kind of agree. It's funny, a lot of you still mentioned that there was no link between him and Mavididi, but actually what I would say is Mavididi didn't pass it to him, but Kristiansen did do that really good cross. It's funny, you said it almost decapitated Mavididi, but I don't think there was anything wrong with the cross. It was pretty good, and I think if they worked on those attacking patterns of play, that could really be something. There was also near the end where Kristiansen put that really good through ball progressive pass to Ayew, and Ayew didn't quite read it, but he was definitely had the thumbs up saying, really appreciate what you did there. But yeah, I think a very solid game. Again, obviously shows that against Championship opposition, he's going to do well, but I don't think he put a foot wrong. When you could actually see him, there wasn't much you could see him in the fog, not his fault. Talking about being in the fog, it looked like he was hotboxing his own penalty box. Neil, talk to me about Jakub Stolarczyk.
Yeah, I think he was a little bit poor with a couple of things, but overall, another kind of solid game. To be honest, wasn't really troubled that much. You could have said something about the second goal. His positioning could have been better, and he probably should have saved that. But it's more for the goal, more for for Varane scoring a great goal than it was for him making the save. Hopefully, he can take that momentum into the next couple of games, because obviously Hermansen I don't think he'll be fit. But yeah, I don't think that he's too bad. I think probably this is I would say this has been his weakest game since coming to the Premier League, since coming to the team. But yeah, I don't think there's too much to worry about.
Yeah, it was solid. I don't know. I don't know if I would say he had a weak game. I think difficult conditions. I think the goals aren't his fault, right? He made the saves. Yeah, maybe for that first one, he could do a bit better if you watch it back, but it's still a giveaway, right? The shot shouldn't have happened in the first place.
I thought, in particular, I want to point this out. On the corners, I thought it was really good. Even when they tried to mark him, he was able to get rid of his man and either just get the ball or punch it out of danger, really. I think that was something that is key, right, to how you want to set up defensively in the corners, that you have a strong goalkeeper who, even when marked, because Premier League teams have really started doing that after Arsenal began doing it, I thought that was a keynote in my eyes. And yeah, not to blame for the 2 goals. If you're caught out of position on the second one, fair enough in my eyes, because you're not expecting to be in a defensive position when one pass goes away and all of a sudden you have to adapt in 2 seconds and the ball's in your net, right? So yeah, decent performance from him, something to build on, and hopefully he'll keep just improving.
Yeah, he did make the occasional bad back pass, which put QPR in. Like we did almost concede off that. But I think in general, everyone's saying here is a solid keeper, solid championship performance, nothing too flashy, but very solid. And that's good. And it is true, as a goalkeeper, it's so hard to play footy in the fog. I mean, literally, it's this position that you've got to rely to look on. But you know what, Andreas, I'm going to give you one that I think you might be excited to talk about for once. So there was the battle of the sideshow bobs in the first half because you had QPR's, what is called, Coady up front with his sort of sideshow bob haircut. But Wout Faes, pretty solid game overall. And then how about that? Finally, he got his banger. So he wins the ball back after Bobby de Cordova-Reid, of course, gives the ball away. Gets onto it, and Bosch picked that one out for 6-2. How about that? What did you make about Faes' performance?
You might say that I'm overreacting, but I didn't think he put a foot wrong in that game, really. He wasn't at fault for any of the 2 goals. I mean, maybe you could go in and nitpick a few things. You obviously can at every player's game, right? But I think his passes was good today. I think he was the commanding force in defense. He gave me a sense of calmness that I thought we might need when Vestergaard is injured, right? Because normally it's Vestergaard who dictates the tempo and passes out the ball from the back. This time, Faes given that responsibility. I thought he did well. Brilliant rocket. I mean, this was a classic Wout Faes championship performance, right? This was how he was all year in the championship. He was good. He won his tackles. He sometimes even took on a few men and beat him. And then again, brilliant goal. I thought he had a great game. And again, much needed, just like James Justin, to have that feeling of success, knowing that yes, it's a QPR team, it's a championship team, but you can absolutely dominate that team.
This interesting one from Brookline. He looks better as a left-centered back. Is that his preferred position? Well, apparently in the summer he was going nuts because he had to play that position. They put Coady as the right centre back, but he did get on well. And the thing is, I do agree with you, Brookline, that I feel like in the championship last year as well, he looked better when Vestergaard was in the middle. I think, to be fair to Faes, he looked better when he was on the right-hand side than Justin was on the left when we had that back 3. But interesting to kind of spot that. Anything you want to say, Luke or Neil, about Wout Faes? I mean, he finally got his banger there. That's a no.
You go, Neil.
I'll take it. I was waiting for Luke if he was going to say something.
You go.
I suppose we want like buses, nothing comes in, both come at once. So with Faes, I think this is the thing is, this is why we get annoyed at him, because he can be a good defender, and we've seen it in a game like this. Great, but then all of a sudden, he'll make a clanger as well, and he's got the mix of it. If he could do this on a more regular basis, he could double his net worth that we paid for him quite easily. But the problem is consistency. As they say, when it comes to form is temporary, class is permanent. And that's where I think Wout Faes struggles. He had a great game today, but the frustration is, can he do it every single week? And if he can, he'll be a big, solid reason why we would say in the Premier League.
There are also levels as well, though. Like as Andreas said, like Wout Faes was one of the best centre-backs in the Championship. He looked pretty good in every game, but in the Premier League, he doesn't. And that's just the reality. There's a big divide between those things. Wout Faes as a defensive midfielder, what are your thoughts? I think he's too reckless to play that position, but I remember Jose Mourinho tried that with David Luiz and it didn't work out too badly. Luke, talk to me about Conor Coady. He probably was less good because he obviously was partly responsible for that first goal that QPR scored. So what did you make of Conor Coady?
He just looks too slow, man. Like there's a few scary moments with him where the pace just looks well off it. He's not that exquisite on the ball either. I won't say that he was horrid today on the ball, but he hasn't got the pace to make up and transition. He's not the builder. He's playing even the left or the right-hand side as that centre-back option. You know what I mean? So for me, look, people talk about him like, I would really love to have an interview of all the players to say if they feel calm around him, because he is a voice, he is a presence on the pitch. How much does he organise our back four? That's subjective. But look, mate, he didn't really put too much of a foot wrong other than that first goal. But he wasn't there's nothing that really stood out for me at the game either. Like if you could, there's not really much I can think of after watching that game other than seeing a really slow like silhouette moving in the fog, to be honest with you. So yeah, mate, not really much I can really add to him right now. I just don't think he should be our starting centre back. I think the only reason he is because he's more disciplined and probably more coachable with his age and experience than Coady is. Where Coady is going to get caught out of position too much. Probably is my only assumption.
I mean, I've got to say, I feel like with Conor Coady, if he's starting, we're going to go down. I feel Like he might be okay. I mean, even today he's made some mistakes, but like you don't have the quality at the sort of Premier League level, I would say. Sad to say. All right, let's move on. Okay, so this one I think is gonna. We said that James Justin might have been the best player on the pitch. Here's probably someone that wasn't. I'm actually going to, unfairly maybe, I'm going to give Luke this one just because you've got a lot to say about. You're normally the captain of the Harry Winks defence force. I'll come to Neil, you in a second. So what did you make of Harry Winks? Because it's been said many times so far that Harry Winks was QPR's best player today. What did you make of his performance?
Somewhere out there in the world, Manny is screaming at me right now for Ndidi to come back behind a TV. I thought he made one excellent line breaking pass in the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then after that, mate, he just was shocking. I don't know what happened today, man. He looked I think this was probably Harry Winks' worst game I've ever seen. Usually I'll be his defender, agent, security guard, whatever you want to call it, but today, man, I've got to be honest with you, he was really poor on the ball. He wasn't intercepting, winning any balls back. That was the biggest example ever for Manny to come on and argue with me why indeed he should be starting over him, and I would have to bend the knee to him as well, to be honest. So poor performance, unfortunately, today for Harry Winks.
Neil, what did you make of him? And you can compare him to Buba Soumar, who probably showed him what he should have been doing. So what did you make of the two of them, the midfield? And just before you answer, guys, if you're liking the content, we'd love it if you could like the stream. And if you haven't already, do subscribe to Blue Tinted Glasses. We're live every single day, and we're going to have a Good Morning Foxes tomorrow at 9:30 to talk about this game and more. But Neil, talk to me about the central defensive pivot, Harry Winks and Buba Soumar.
With Soumar, it was better, a lot better in terms of the performance. His ability, again, he's got this lovely ability to, again, travel with the ball, feint past a player, take a player on. Again, yes, it was against some of the lower championship team, but spread a ball, which I thought was really good. Harry Winks, on the other hand, Luke's done a good job of covering it. It's just so frustrating because we know he's not that kind of player. And the thing is, there isn't really an excuse for it. You can't really blame the fog. You can't really blame anything. It's without trying to take what Luke was saying, I mean, it's just not good enough. And if, again, there's competition for places, one advantage of signing Oliver Skipp is that there's a man to come in and do his job now.
Yeah, we'll come on to Skipp in a moment because I think he was much better than Winks in this game overall. I think the one thing, though, that's really just a bit disappointing about Winks is that if you play in that position, the reality is that unfortunately you are occasionally going to make a bad pass like that, or you're even going to have a bad game because you're a player that's under pressure a lot. But what I don't like is that when he made that pass, it's a couple of things that are really bad about it. Firstly, he plays the pass blind, right? Which is really, really risky. That's sometimes being arrogant in your own ability to do that, right? Because there's so much that can go wrong if you haven't even scanned the pitch. At least you need to, if we saw in a clip that he looked up and then when he was down, he played the pass looking at, you'd at least have the memory, but he didn't. So he's just going on a feeling, not what the reality of the situation was. That's number one. And number two, though, which I think is more criminal for an experienced player, he literally did that with 30 seconds left of the half to go. At that point in time, especially as one of the older players, one of the highest earners, you've just kick it out. Just kick it out at that point. There's no point in doing it. You've literally done the worst possible thing. What's the best thing that could happen, right? You slightly hold on the ball. You're not likely going to make a goal scoring opportunity with that little time left on it. So that really upset me about it. Buba Soumar, I'll quickly say, I think that he started the game giving the ball away a few times, but by the end of the game, I mean, wow. I mean, I don't know. I think he's still going under the radar. Like there was one bit where him and Kristiansen combined really well. Kristiansen played it back to him. He spun and then he carried the ball probably 40 yards forward, playing it to McAteer, who then gave the ball away. But he's so good at doing that. So there's a lot to like there. And it is interesting that some people were saying that they feel that maybe Soumar does prefer or feels more confident playing next to Ndidi because he knows he's got his mate there to get him out of trouble. But we'll have to say, but I think that's a fair point. Soumar didn't have to get up first gear today. That's true. And I do think that the thing that he could improve Soumar is that he does drive the ball upfield really well, but then we don't necessarily capitalize on that situation too well. That's not necessarily his fault. But for example, I always felt the reason why Kante was like such a legend is he'd win the ball back, but he'd win the ball back and then either play it to Drinkwater really quickly or he'd take the ball forward himself. Like I remember we got that penalty against Arsenal in the title winning season and Kante won the ball back, went forward, played the through ball into Vardy and we won a penalty. He was just so good at like not just getting the ball but capitalizing on it. But anyway, Andreas, I'm going to give you someone that I think will get a lot of love from chat. You say his name because the way that you say it, I really like it. It's our number 11. It's
Bilal El Khannouss.
Yeah, it's the way you do the S at the end with the. I don't even know if that's not the proper pronunciation, but talk to me
I'm not
about
sure either, but hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. I mean, you could spend minutes talking about all the individual good actions he had today and how brilliant he was on the ball, but quite clearly, I'm gonna try and keep it a bit short. But he has adapted to the Premier League brilliantly. He's adapted to the physicality well. He has a good vision, and he is able to not just be selfish and a young player who wants to make a name for himself, but he's always putting the team first. He'll gladly get down defensively and do some dirty work there as well. He'll always play the chance bigger if he sees someone like Mavididi in today's goal coming in on the overlap instead of taking the shot himself. Absolutely brilliant, and I'm 100% sure that we'll only sadly get to enjoy him for a few seasons because a top 6 club or something will come in and nab him for a lot of money.
Yeah, I got to say, I remember when we signed him, I was excited because I was like, wow, I actually think for this type of position, there isn't a better player that we could have realistically signed in Europe. And it's taken a while, but finally he's kind of got to that. There's some really funny comments here. We need Bilal to play all 11 positions. Kind of agree. Akif, imagine if we had 10 Bilals. I mean, it's kind of true though, because I think that the problem is that like he's just so much better than anyone else that you really see. I mean, you're not a joke. I mean, forget 10, but if we had, let's say, 3 players at El Khannouss's level, right, we're not in a relegation battle. We're probably mid-table. If you had 5 or 6, you're probably pushing for Europe, right? That's just the reality of where it goes. I really liked it in the first half when him and Buonanotte combined. Do watch that again. If we do some analysis, I'll show it. But Buonanotte wins the ball back, plays it in. It goes to El Khannouss. El Khannouss then does the cross back. Buonanotte follows the run. That's one number 8 to the other. That's Kiernan Dewsbury Hall to Wilfred Ndidi from last season. I mean, Luke, talk to me about that. But that was sexy football, surely. And he's got to be the one highlight, really, this season, right? Watching Bilal develop. And will he stay with us?
Well, to be honest, redemption arc. I think those two have been the big surprises.
Who's the other one, did you say?
Soumar, like his redemption, right? At the start of the season, no one mentioned him. And he's, I mean, again, alongside Bilal El Khannouss, one of the first names on the team sheet currently.
True, but I would say the difference between him maybe and Soumar is Soumar does have good patches, but like how much of it does it really end up being positive? I will give you one. Against Ipswich, Soumar won the ball back against Morsey, bodied him on the floor, and basically thanks to him, it was the fact that IU got the equaliser. What I think I'm saying with Bilal is that it's not only that he does all these good things, but these good things do end up in literally either a goal or an assist or both. And as Neil mentioned in the first half, a few times, even in the fog, he threw himself on the floor. He won the ball back. He did the physical game there as well. So I'll let everyone, because I think everyone wants to talk about him. But, you know, Luke, talk to me about Bilal because, you know, have we found his best position now? Are we seeing the best out of him?
Yes, 100%. I think the most important thing to point out about Bilal is he's intelligent. Like everything he does is well thought out. He scans the pitch. Not only is he really good going forward and picking a pass out, he's also really good at going backwards as well and then being able to win the ball back. His challenges are actually much more physical than like looking at him is quite deceiving at how physical he really is for his size. He's actually really starting to adapt to the what you would call the English style of football, the physicality wise. So I think it's really good to see. Like I said, he's very intelligent. He's passing. Like that first goal came from Stephy Mavididi wins the ball back. Khannouss runs onto the ball, gives it back under pressure to Mavididi, and he slots it. Mate, I'm all aboard the hype train for Bilal El Khannouss. Definitely, probably after Mads Hermansen, going to be the next big sale that we make. And hopefully it's still in the Premier League so we get compensated for what he's really worth.
I think this one's funny. I think in 5 years from now, we will look back and go, how the fuck did we have Bilal and Facundo at Leicester? You could sort of argue the same thing with Tillemans and Maddison in some degree. I forgot to sell out the score. Yeah, guys, if you don't mind, please smash the like. We'd really appreciate it. Okay, so I think we can say that Bilal had a fantastic game. And I think it was right that he was removed after 60 minutes. We need to save him. He's definitely one of the best ones. So I think another player that low-key had a pretty good game today was this guy, Stephy Mavididi. So Neil, talk to me about Steffi.
Yeah, good. I think, as you mentioned before, we're not going to talk about the Kristiansen link-up again. That needs to be worked on. But for the second goal, but was it the third goal? Can't remember the second or third goal. For when, obviously, the third goal for where he linked it up. It really looked like him, El Khannouss, Buonanotte were all on that same page. We've not really seen that for the long period of time. You add into that with James Justin drawing in on that right-hand side, that's going to make a really free-flowing football, which is what we need and what we're going to be able to stay up with. Then you've got Jamie Vardy, who we'll come on to a bit later, but is instinctive finisher. I thought he had a good game today. I'm still not convinced if he's championship level or he's Premier League level, because games like this today, again, obviously again, championship proposition, but I think did good today. But again, the jury's out for me, and I'm right on the fence with it, because there is some things where you see like this guy's quality, and the other things where he misses opportunities, like he did against Aston Villa. You're like, we should have put that away. So
Neil, can I get you off the fence? Because I'll be honest with you, this was my ulterior motive. The reason why I gave you Mavididi is I remember on your channel, Beyond the 90, we spoke about him when we first signed him. We're like, what do you think? And we were looking at the stats, and I think you were saying, we know he'll be good in the Championship, but if he was that good, he would be signed by a Premier League team, and he hasn't. And like, is he going to be one of those players? The one I always use is Dwight Gale, who used to play for like Newcastle and teams like that, where he'd always score like 20 goals in the Championship, then come to the Premier League and score 2 or 3. It was noticeable again today that he looked more confident. He scored a goal. That was like Mavididi from last season. He looked top class, right? But is it because of the opposition? Can he get there? Is it just something we have to sit? So if I have to get you off the fence, is he good enough for the Premier League, Stephy Mavididi?
Well, the fact is I'm still on the fence because I don't know. And we've not seen, and that's the thing. So I don't want to commit to something when I've not seen enough from him. There are elements that he could be better at, but also he's 27. He's pretty much in his prime now. So I'm looking at it going, I'm genuinely still not sure. He could be, but I don't think he showed me enough for me to be confident, say yes, he's a Premier League player or yes, he's a Championship player.
I think that's fair enough. I think this is a good comment. He could be Premier League level if he was consistent. Mark says he's a Championship level player. I think he's proven in the Championship for sure. And this is true from Peter. He needs to connect better with teammates. He doesn't like to pass off to Victor Kristiansen. And there was someone saying that like Ruud should do something like, we'll give you £500 every time you pass the ball to Victor Kristiansen and set up a cross, because it's crazy that he doesn't do it. And yeah, look, Mavididi is great over 50 games in the Championship where he's going to get chances, but he's not a player that takes chances in tighter Premier League games when you don't get so many opportunities. That's fair. Good finish, though, today, although I think Khannouss did a lot of the hard work for him. Okay, so let's talk about another attacking 8/10, whichever way you want to view it. It's Facundo Buonanotte. Andreas, what did you make of Facundo today?
I mean, I thought Facundo showed the strength we often see for him, right? He's good at carrying the ball. I think his vision is fine as well. He's not as solid as Bilal when it comes to finding that final ball. That's, I think, the big difference between them. But I thought he did good. He's fighting hard. He's really been getting a defensive mindset on the route as well to help out in defense, which I think is crucial. Many of our attacking players have adopted that defensive mindset, which I think is crucial when we defended that mid-block 4-4-2. Yeah, I thought he was good again today. He is one of the players who loses the ball the most, but it is what it is when you are the one carrying the ball out from midfield into the final third, right? So you will give up the ball every now and then. I mean, obviously Ayew is, I think, likely to start on Wednesday, but this guy has made a case for himself of why he could be in contention for that still. I'm not too fussed about whoever of these two players start. I think they both add different things, but yet again, we saw Buonanotte's strength, getting a goal and an assist.
That's true. Do you think he's going to start against Crystal Palace? It did surprise me that he started instead of Ayew for this one. Is that telling or is it not? He had a good game. He scored. And then later on, Ayew did come on, but he actually kept on Buonanotte, I think, for most of the game. And he moved Facundo into the number 10 position. What do you think?
I mean, the thing, right, is I like the fact that he's versatile and can also play the number 10 and come in off the right. The sign that he will start against Crystal Palace, the fact that he got subbed off, to be honest, I think that was a bit telling to me that maybe he will get the start. I think it's very much a coin flip currently, but I do want to see him start. I think our best game this year, or in the best game in the loss streak, has been the game against City, and that was with both Facundo and Buonanotte on the pitch starting. So I want to go with that as well, but don't be surprised when Ayew starts.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Here's from Mongoose. He started because we didn't have to worry too much defensively, because you're not going to get pinned back as much. And Elias Chair was causing some problems when Buonanotte wasn't around. And John says Buonanotte needs to defend if he wants to be a consistent starter, which is interesting. But then, of course, I think this is what a lot of us think. Ayew's not a starting player either. Bring him on after 60 minutes. I think the real answer is somehow get Abdul Fattah back on the pitch and play him instead, but not going to happen this season. Luke, I'm going to come to you. What do you think about the GOAT? Had an interesting day. It's his birthday, 38 years old. Happy birthday, Jamie Vardy. He scored on his birthday with a penalty. I felt like he should have had another penalty. It looked like a pretty obvious one to me. He did also miss a pretty easy chance, although he might have been offside. Overall, what did you make of Jamie Vardy today, Luke?
So happy birthday to the GOAT. Yeah, I do agree. That should have been a penalty. He got his Achilles blasted out from behind. That was VAR. He's probably definitely getting it. He did miss a sitter early on. That was pretty disappointing. I'm not going to lie. But what matters is he absolutely smashed that penalty home for a nice celebration on his birthday. So look, mate, he's still an intelligent player. You can see it. The pace is not what it once was. He had one beautiful ball given to him. I think it was from Kristiansen, or I can't remember who it was. But, mate, it's hard to get track of everyone because of all the fog. But, hey, I'm more than happy, and I'm glad that he came off at the 60-minute mark. Give him a rest, and Daka came on, and we've got a lot of people in the comments talking about Daka, so I'm sure we'll come on to him soon. But, yeah, for me, happy birthday, Jamie Vardy. You legend. We love you. 10 more years, Jamie Vardy.
10 more years. I think he might get another contract extension. Would be kind of funny. All right, Neil, this is good. Thanks for bringing this up. Let's take a look at this. This is the average pitch positions. This is probably the highest we've been up all season long. So what I'm seeing there is interesting is Mavididi's pushed on the highest. You can see how far forward James Justin number 2's got. Bilal as well. That's kind of quite similar, him and Mavididi, the way that Kin and Dewsbury Hall and Stephy Mavididi would combine. It is interesting that he drifted over to the left, El Khannouss, because in this position, he's got more license to play more central. Vardy, you can see doing a bit of the false nine. You see how high up Soumar is getting. You can see that Coady was the one that was generally at the back the most there. Otherwise, not too different. I suppose you see the difference in the fullbacks, how Victor Kristiansen sits more compared to James Justin. But yeah, I will say that's kind of makes me laugh is that's the highest average pitch position you'll see for Leicester all season. If you look at the Arsenal game, it was the exact opposite of this with everyone. Yeah, you could very badly see it. But do you know what? This is a good point, actually. Let's bring this up. The ref was so inconsistent, and I can't feel bad for the opposition and not give fouls and such. The ref was pretty shocking today, Luke. You mentioned it a number of times, and I agree. Like, it was foggy, but what was he doing throughout the game? What did you make of the ref's performance?
I'll just give my quick 2 cents and I'll pass it over to Duck because I think he feels a bit more passionate about this. But I will just quickly say, yes, the ref was absolute garbage. I think even the QPR fans would say that. I think he was just confused by all that vape smoke that was knocking about on the pitch. But yeah, the ref was 100% certified bot NPC retard. But yeah, give it to Duck because he's got probably a much better take than I do.
I mean, he was shocking. One of the worst ref performances I've seen all year. Obviously, right, we won 6-2, so can't be complaining too much. But, I mean, the thing is, I believe a referee lays down a line for this is a foul and this isn't a foul in a game. And then, you can always accept, I mean, maybe in another game it would have been given, but this referee has been consistent. This one was not. He was anything but consistent. Sometimes he would give the softest foul ever where you didn't really even see like a rough challenge. And then other times, like Kristiansen got almost like kicked in the back for some reason. No free kick there. The penalty against Vardy, not given. And then 2 minutes later, a QPR player would be breathed on by a Leicester player, and he would be blowing for a foul, nearly giving a yellow card. Luckily, didn't do that, but I thought he was so inconsistent. Like, there was no line between what was a foul and what wasn't. He was genuinely shocking. One of the worst referee performances I've seen all season, and I'm not one to usually complain about refs. He was stinking. He needs to get fired, man. Give him his pink slip and get him gone. Absolute disgrace.
Yeah, I wouldn't have say it was a disgrace, but I do agree with you that I would say that's the worst refereeing performance. I think he was just bad overall, to be honest with you, for both teams. Now, this is an interesting one, and it's not surprised me that this has come from Lox. So Lox has said, regarding Wout Faes, don't know if you noticed, but Faes put his arms up and refused to celebrate after his goal, probably shushing the crowd like he did last season. And the guy has severe main character energy syndrome, which I think we can agree. Although Sean sort of then comes back and says, well, the fans have been given Fast stick for the entire season, so I'm not surprised he didn't celebrate.
I will say, he did celebrate. Like, if you look back at the video, right, he starts by doing something like this, pointing up, that's me. And then when people get to him, goes like this. And I think it's hard to analyze a goal when you are in the 90th minute leading 4-2, because normally the players would just be happy and then walk back and, continue the game because there's no real reason to celebrate like crazy. But because he scored a screamer, he celebrated a bit, running towards the crowd with this because it was a brilliant goal. But it's hard to judge because, I mean, 9 out of 10 players, when we're this far up or like this far ahead in 90 minutes, won't even be celebrating the goals really, unless they are brilliant. So hard to judge.
After seeing that goal, Crystal Palace are definitely cowering in fear right now. Definitely. We'll see. All right, let's just talk about some of the subs before we go into all the comments from chats. Don't worry, guys. There's a lot of them we're going to come back to. So, yeah, I think there were a few interesting things to talk about this. So I think Skip came on for wings. Luke, what did you make of Skip? And in fact, you can talk about him and Daka because you wanted to talk about him. But I think Skip in particular, I think he had a pretty good game when he came on, to be honest with you.
Yes, I did. So, look, we were talking about this during the game, all of us, and I was saying, look, I'm still convinced he's not as bad as everyone makes out to be. And Neil was quick to point out for the price that we paid, it was a rip, particularly when we have so many central defensive midfielders already, which is completely true, and it's on the money, and I agree. One thing that we always mentioned last season is we did not have cover for Winks as someone that had that, that be able to scout out a pass and, scan the pitch. And I think that's what Skip's best at, but better than Winks, where he can carry the ball up a little bit up the pitch. What I will say is that I think that if he didn't have that massive price tag, and if we, let's say, pay 10 million for him as like an option for Winks, and we didn't have all the other central defensive midfielders, he wouldn't get slated as much. He has been poor, but at the start of the season, I thought he was actually not too bad, to be fair. So should we get relegated? Hopefully not, touch wood. I would not be disappointed in having Skip as a defensive, double pivot option. So much better performance for him. It was good to see him get a bit of confidence. And, if we do have an unforeseen injury, we are going to need people like him to step up. So, again, I know it's QPR with all due respect, but look, he did a good job today. As for Patson Daka, yeah, he did brilliant to dish that pass off to JJ. I thought he was going to bot out and because he's really, really weak physically. But no, mate, he managed to get it off. So credit to Patson Daka. He was dropping really deep and trying to link up play, which was interesting to see as well. Not really off the shoulder sprinting, making his runs like he is normally known for and then shanking it. So, hey, mate, I'll give him his flowers. He actually was on for half an hour. So you look, mate, I think we should see a bit more of Daka. We can't run Vardy into the ground. So shout out to Patson Daka today. He wasn't too bad for his link-up play.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well, though. We're definitely seeing like the clearer style of play under Ruud, right? Because other players come on into the team and they understand their role. That, again, is something that I was quite critical of Steve Cooper. So last game, Luke Thomas came on. And you wouldn't really have noticed that it was him nor Kristiansen. And that's not me trying to knock either one of those players, just saying that he fulfilled the role pretty well. Daka, the same, was dropping deep to play the false nine and being pretty decent. And as we said, Skip did well when he came on. I do think, though, that with Skip, he's basically also been a bit unfortunate that Soumar's had the kind of renaissance. And so therefore, it's almost like if instead of Soumar, it was Skip playing there and he was playing as good as Soumar, we'd probably be saying it's quite a good signing. But actually what we've done is we've just spent all that money for someone who's on the bench, or someone we have instead is playing in the team and actually playing quite well. So that's what we'll kind of get to. But yeah, let's leave it there in terms of this particular going through the players. So we've got lots of comments from chat. So I want to go through some of this, and please do keep coming back to us and ask whatever you want for the rest of the show. Because come on, guys, this is one of the few times where we can enjoy a fairly emphatic win this season. We might not get too many of them. So I want to bring this one up, right? It's good for his next season in the Championship, though. So I think this is kind of talking about most of the sort of thing. So this was interesting, right? Because QPR, they're mid-table in the Championship. They're in a good run of form. We've done them 6-2. I think if I go all the way back to the stats, though, what's kind of interesting is that we scored 6, but just off 10 shots, which is pretty interesting, although they scored 2 of just 8. So pretty interesting game. But is the reality that we're just going to have to get used to going back down to the Championship, or can we stay up? Does a performance like this really help us? And, related to that, will this motivate the board to invest more in the squad or less? What do we think of those? Neil, you're nodding quite furiously, so I'm going to come to you first. What do you make of that sort of thing? Where are Leicester in the long,
as in, depends what kind of players want to turn up.
What do you think? So do you think, based off that, right, what do you think will happen for the rest of the season? Obviously, what's happened is now Everton have brought David Moyes in, who's very steady. He's obviously got the Everton sort of DNA in him. Wolves made a really good start under their manager, although they did lose 3-0 to Forest. They're also strengthening. Ipswich strengthening themselves. We're really not strengthening. I mean, his fair point, right? It goes, 20 million for a low-level Championship player. Whoever sanctioned that needs to be arrested for terrorism. Interesting comment about Soumar here. Am I the only one that thinks Soumar isn't good enough to be a DM, but he was just good today? You can talk about that. But yeah, I want to specifically from you, Neil, just to answer, Well, what are you feeling right now? Do you think we'll survive? Do you think we'll go down? What is our level? How are you feeling right now?
It's a really tough one because the players that we have, the main issue is the FFP. Let's be honest, that's going to really stuff us up because of who we can invest in. I'm so conflicted because on their day, the answer is yes, they can stay up. The problem is, can they do it? Again, Mavididi is a good example. Can they do it consistently? And the truth is, I don't know. But what we've seen so far under Cooper and what we've seen under Ruud, I don't know if we have enough to stay up. That's putting aside the potential FFP points deduction that's going to come up. We could, but I would need, for example, we just need to see, I think, a decent stack inside of football that we've seen today, and we just need to clean those errors up. We've not got a lot that we need to get right. It's just the individual errors. If we start cleaning them up, getting clean sheets, starting to play into game, we could stay up. With, again, all we've got linked is that I forgot his name, Woyo Koulibaly, that's potential, that's probably going to come in. Is it enough to stay up? Probably not. But this team could. I think this team, if you compare it to the team that stayed up during the Great Escape season, that this team is a better team than escapes relegation in 14, 15.
Yeah, it's better than that one, but probably not as good as the time we got relegated. I mean, I've got to say, a lot of people saying this, like a marquee centre-back is what we need. And I think this was a really good comment from earlier. That my main concern is defence. Below average championship team with 6 rested, which is true, is a concern given the damage that they caused in the first half.
But it's all about how you word it, right? I mean, this is also one of the most informed championship teams with a manager that has been linked to top-end championship jobs at the least and could go on to manage a Premier League team. I'm going to be honest, I'm very tired of this always, like, this fan base recently, and for good reason, I will say, have been so pessimistic, even when our game has improved. And I'm always the optimist, I know that. And I'm sometimes, I don't want to say cluelessly optimistic, but I'm blind optimistic, and I'm blindly hopeful. I know that. But the fact that we're sitting off the back of a 6-2 win, people already with 19 games to go in the Premier League, or 18 games or whatever, saying that this will be good when we go down the championship. We're 2 points off getting our way from the relegation zone, guys. This is a win that quite clearly the players needed. We need to get your shit together, start backing the boys. Yes, the signings won't be brilliant. They won't be these 20, 30 million pound signing. But I mean, as well, people are complaining we're doing nothing. Now we're about to sign a right back who looks to be the profile we need. And people are complaining we aren't spending enough money on him, or it's not like Jadon Philligan. Get a grip, lads. We need to get behind the boys. There's 18 games to go, for fuck's sake. Like, fuck
I love you, Doug. That's why Andreas is part of the blue tinted glasses team. We need that optimism. I love you. Duck is more British than some of you. Absolutely. Well, I like that. And it's all possible. And I will say it felt a lot more glum in the Great Escape season, and we did get out of it. And there are some similarities to that. All right, without any further ado, I want to bring on some drama for the last 10 minutes. So last time round, there was some good banters between Steve and Luke. So let's bring it up. A question from my Aussie friend who called me an idiot last week. Would you still twist with the obvious points deduction, which we get next week? And I guess related to that is, what's the thought on Rudkin's incompetence? Well, look, I would say, just before I hand that over to you, Luke, that obviously we don't know if we're going to get the points deduction, but it is, of course, possible. That might even change your opinion, Andreas, because it might not be 2 points away. It might be 4 points away. Equally, maybe Man City will get relegated and will be out of the relegation zone. But over to you, Luke. What do you make of that? It's called up for you.
Pull it up again. Okay. So look, first of all, let me just look. Everyone gets heated sometimes. I apologize for calling you an idiot just because we have difference in opinions, and it doesn't give me the right to call you an idiot. So I apologize for that. But you did, to be fair, you did say I was talking rubbish. And if you want to like antagonize me and get rinsed by me in front of everyone in the chat, then it's fair game. But look, let me just answer that. Like, honestly. Look, the reality is, his point was last time, if I remember, was that we're going to look stupid. We can't spend money. We're in FFP problems. And I understand that, okay, and we are, right? It's true. But the reality is, if we do get relegated and there's a transfer embargo and heaps of people want to jump ship and not stay on this sinking ship, and we have a transfer embargo where we can't sign players and we didn't sign anyone in January, that leaves us even worse off and even more impossible task to come back up a second time, which we all probably would say that we would not. So that was my opinion, and I can understand where you're coming from because, yes, Rudkin is an absolute madman behind the wheel, and we all know that and we're aware of that. But the reality is we do need to make signings now and almost treat this like, let's say if there is going to be an embargo, we go down. This is almost like a summer transfer window, to be honest with you, because we might not be able to sign anyone. So that was my reasoning and why I called you an idiot. But again, I apologize just because I think that and you don't. That doesn't give me the right to call you an idiot.
It's all right. I think people, they expect that the raging Aussie, if they don't get it, people are going to be disappointed. Let's keep asking the chat. How about that question to the rest of you guys then? So obviously there is this potential points deduction looming. And yeah, like I say, Everton have come in. They brought in David Moyes. They're also about to sign Ernest Nomoa, who of course is was your shout, Doc, as well. And Manny, of course, absolutely loving it. At the same time, I will say there are some good signs, right? The team is still clearly playing for the manager. I think they're clearly playing for one another. There was maybe some aggro. Like, to be fair, did you see at the end of the first half, Stolarczyk was going absolutely mental at Harry Winks. And I really like that when a young keeper's got the balls to do that with a more established player. Here we go. Agree, brother. No offense taken. I'll come back to you again, Neil. So what are you thinking in terms of where we're going to go? What do you think we need to do? I mean, if you could, what signings would you make? I mean, I would just ask the question to everyone here, which I find interesting. We've gone for another kind of fullback in JJ, right? But we could have signed the winger, right? And that's what I'm a bit disappointed at. Is I actually would prefer if we'd have signed, let's say, Ernest Nomoa or Nomoa, you can pronounce it for me, Andreas, as a winger who could play instead of Fatawu for the rest of the season. And then we've got a rotation option. Because I guess something that scares me a bit is that, like, even if we do go down, given that he's got an ACL, Fatawu wouldn't be sold. I don't think Mavididi would be sold. So what's going to happen? Are we not going to have two wingers again? That's because this system is okay whilst we haven't got Fatawu. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of this system. To be fair, JJ was absolutely excellent today, but that's against championship opposition. I don't see him having those kind of performances in the Premier League. So what do you make of all that sort of information I've thrown your way, Neil?
I disagree with the winger position. I think we need another centre back. I think the centre back is a position where the attacking going forward we can compromise without, but it's the defensive issues that are coming up. If we get another top quality centre back in, I think that will increase our chances more than actual winger itself. So I hear your point, but I think if we get on paper, quote unquote, again, it's not going to happen, but imagine that Fofana comes into the squad, that level of centre back will take us up 2 or 3 levels and will prevent goals, but it would also help us break out on the counter attack and transition the ball a lot better. So that's what I think. I think again, I'm not saying we're going to get Fofana, but I think that we've restricted our FFP. But if I was going to get a position, it would be a centre back of genuine quality that would go. We need another as we mentioned before, we need an El Khannouss but centre back, a player that we can come in of about 20 million. Then you go, this guy's going up to the top. We will be sold on eventually, but for now, he's going to help us escape relegation single-handedly.
Funny, some people mention replacing Ruud. I think Ruud's actually doing quite a good job. I really agree with you, Neil, there, though. I think as well that centre-back's got to have pace. Obviously, it's interesting. I don't know if you've seen that Man City are looking like they're going to spend over 40 million quid on Kusanov from Lens. And why I find that interesting is just because I'm a bit confused about Man City signings. I will say that I've definitely noticed in recent seasons, they can't afford to get the top players anymore. Like Savio did score against us, but it's not the same level as like when they signed Riyad Mahrez. And I wonder if these signings could backfire for them. But the one thing I'll say about him is he's so fast that's clearly the reason that they've signed him. And I think someone with pace could make a big difference there. Some just other comments here. What are your thoughts on Fatawu being sold in this window? He's not going to be sold in this window, but what the news was saying is that basically Leicester are going to return to the model of selling them one marquee player every season, which, to be honest with you, it doesn't really surprise us. I think, sadly, you could even probably say that, the season where we almost made the Champions League but didn't during COVID, that season. No, we did actually. We still sold Ben Chilwell that season, didn't we? And we brought in Timothy Castagna. But it just means that, as Akif's saying, we're going to sell probably Mads Manson first. But then I guess what we're saying is that Fatawu isn't long for a Leicester shirt, that if he continues his upward trajectory, he'll probably be sold. I'll be honest with you, though. I feel like the way that it's... Yeah, sorry, Neil. It's really depressing, but it actually feels more than anything right now. Maybe even sooner than Mads, to be honest with you. Yeah, Steve, I agree with you. Ruud did handle the presses so well. He's so much better than actually Cooper. I actually think he's even better than Enzo. I think the way that he does his press conference is pretty good. He's actually impressed me quite a lot. I'm going to come to you, Andreas, because you know the Danish. Oh, go on, Neil. Sorry.
No, the only thing I was going to mention on that, I love the slander that End used to give to the opposition, especially, against the Leeds. It's a huge game for them. Another game for us. That was I think that's one of my all-time favorite quotes from a manager. But other than that, I'm with you. Because remember, he used to, even players that were coming in, oh, where's Mads Manson? Yeah, he's with us, but he's not signed yet. I'm not going to tell you. But he used to slip that in after post matches. I remember. I think Callum Doyle was another one. Yeah, I like the player. I've coached him Man City. He is coming, but I can't tell you that just yet. I quite like the honesty though with Enzo.
I'm really hoping that Luke completes his coaching badges in the next few years, because he would be absolute box office in those press conferences. I want to come back to you, Andreas. So maybe then, what else do you think we could get? I mean, obviously, we're bringing one fullback in. Who do you think could be available in terms of centre-back if we were to get one? I would buy that. I think you're right there, Neil, that I think that, to be honest with you, I noticed it again today. In fact, if anything, today's game makes it even more obvious to me. Like, the problem is, again, we've conceded 2 goals. We've only had 1 clean sheet. Actually, so we had some clean sheets in the Carabao Cup, but I'm not really counting them. So we had 1 clean sheet in the Premier League against Bournemouth. And that game, let's be honest with you, we were lucky to get the clean sheet. We didn't deserve it. They should have probably had a penalty. I love this. Luke, the Akif thinks you'd be Anjon Crack if you were a manager. I would agree.
But, I mean, in terms of what we could get in, right, there is no, I mean, from what I know in the Danish league, there aren't any brilliant defenders who are standing out. Some of them have been shipped out recently. Jan Bisek from AGF now playing for Inter Milan. Thomas Kristiansen we are linked with from AGF, who got sold. I can't remember the club actually, but it's Udinese, I think, in Italy as well. So I mean, a lot of them have been shipped out recently. Dennis Vavro has gone to Wolfsburg as well. Some of the top, even if they aren't that young. If there's one guy I will say, and as Luke mentioned earlier, right, we have to remember, if we go down, or we should always look long term. And Tobias Slotsager, a young Danish centre back, 17 years old, 19 maybe 18 now, I think, or maybe 19 actually. Very young, still a teenager. 6 months left of his contract. He will be available for less than £1 million. And while he wouldn't go in and improve the starting 11, if we go down to the championship, I can certainly see him playing a role down there. Or if we stay up in a few years' time, he could be of good use in the main squad or be sold on in the future. That would be a good long-term signing of Mads. He's been nominated for the Golden Boy as well last year. So I think some of those signings would be nice to have, but you highlighted Boskakli, I think Anil from PSV.
I mean,
that would be a brilliant signing. But at this point, I don't think he would be coming either. So I think centre backs.
And Andreas, that's like saying I want to go out with Sydney Sweeney. I might want that. But
not as unrealistic. You have to say. I mean, if you're telling me you still wanted to go for Kusanov, I think you'd be saying, I still want to go with Sydney Sweeney. But yeah, go on. I can't remember a centre back at the top of my head, but I can bring you many right wingers who I think will do a brilliant job immediately to a starting 11.
Some other interesting ones here. Yeah, someone mentioned Esposito, the striker. Now, that's an interesting one because his stats look pretty good. And he obviously has come through the Inter Milan Youth Academy. If I'm being honest, though, I don't see that being the sort of player that comes in and makes a difference immediately.
Don't spend 20 million on it now. That would be crazy.
Yeah. But I would say he does look like a kind of Leicester City style signing of old where he could come in and do well. That player actually looks quite promising, I would say. Now, it's interesting. People talking about
player for now.
But Valentin. Yeah, exactly. I agree. People talking about Valentin Gomez, but this is true. This is what I've heard as well, is that the Valentin Gomez deal to Cruzeiro has fallen through. Now, if he's available for 8 million, could play left-sided centre-back, left-back as well, that could be a signing that could come in. Again, I'm not sure it's someone that would necessarily keep you up, but that's someone that could be there. And has anyone heard, I've never heard this thing, anyone heard this? Kiriani Save from Bruges looks promising. There's another Moroccan right back I've seen is good. I'm not going to be able to show that comment, Luke, but yes, there is a reason why you'd want to go out with Sydney Sweeney. All right, look, we've come to an hour, so thank you so much. Let's just go through some of the other scores. So let's take a look at what's going on in the FA Cup so far. Birmingham beating Lincoln, Wolves are through, Liverpool through. So far, we're the top scorer, so woo, you'll never sing that. Bournemouth have beaten West Brom 5-1.
5-0, 5-0.
Wow. Okay, so I was going to say, has there been any upsets? And there has. Brentford have lost to
What
Plymouth
was
Argyle.
Brentford's lineup? Let me just pull that
Yeah,
up. See how we
Thomas
played
Frank. That's. Do you know what? That's one of those. It's funny here, David. Yeah, we were showing some of the foggers here. We went to the game but couldn't see a thing. Clemo, thank you so much. £5 super chat. Play Justin right wing and use the new guy coming in as right back. Do you know what? Maybe we should let's talk about that. That is quite possibly going to be what we do. Could you see that, Luke? That we actually keep.
I mentioned it earlier, and I said, "Do you think that's the most Australian thing ever?" And everyone's silenced. And I was like, "Fuck!" I was like, "Cricket." So I was like, "Maybe I shouldn't have said that." But here we go, Clem.
I'll be honest with you. I had Sydney Sweeney on the other screen. That's apologies there. That's why I was a bit distracted. But Clemo's helped you out. He's your bro. What do you think? It's funny, look, because actually, and this is true from Akif. So let's bring this up as a debate. Because Akif said, honestly, the other way round would be better. So he's probably suggesting having Koulibaly up front and Justin behind him. So what do you make of both of those ideas?
Was Koulibaly's left-footed as well, right? So that is interesting. So that's a good take.
He can use both.
Yeah, very both-footed.
Yeah, ambidextrous. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
But we haven't really seen anyone ambidextrous of both feet since James Maddison left, who everyone knows I've been hard on for. Yeah. So, but no, look, it could work, mate. Like James Justin's now had a brace twice in a few and far between poor performances. But hey, mate, look, to be honest with you, I think it could work because on the transition nature, he would not have to track as much distance back to get back and slot back as a right back. So he could be a defensive option further up the pitch, like you like to highlight Wilfred Ndidi for when he's played further up the pitch as well. So he could be the defensive option further up the pitch as well as an attacking option. He does have pace, but not what it used to be. It's not a bad shout, mate, because he more or less is playing a right winger. Like, you know, when we're in attack, it's just the problem with the brutal nature of transition in the Premier League. He cannot be expected to attack and defend, in my opinion, as far up the pitch as he gets. So it's not a bad shout, mate, to be honest with you. I wouldn't mind at least experimenting with it once if we do get Koulibaly. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Interesting comment here from KCK. The only reason we have the right back overlap is to facilitate the right winger in the half spaces. JJ will be cooked in the pocket. But hear me out here, KCK, because the thing is that then you could have Justin as the right-sided centre-back. And the thing is, as was proven last year in the Championship, is JJ is pretty quick. I actually think JJ is faster than Coady. That's my opinion. I might be wrong on that, but JJ is pretty rapid, I think. So I don't know. You could have... you can learn his name here, there, Luke. Get used to seeing this lad because it looks like he's coming. So if Koulibaly is going to play there, I don't know. Look, I tell you what, we'll cover that the next time. We'll see if they line up. But you know what? It's not impossible, and maybe that would be a way. Because I did say to you that the thing is actually I'll just bring this up. This is from our scouting report yesterday. But something that Ruud said, which I think is really good, is this. He goes, "We've been creating a style of play, and players who fit into that are the profiles who can get us better results." Those are the profiles we've been talking about with the recruitment team and the people responsible for signing these players. It started in December and hopefully we can present something soon. So I guess what I'm saying there is I like the fact that, you know, we're thinking about the player profiles, not just necessarily who's there. And here we go. JJ turns like the Queen Mary. I think he's not as bad as Vestergaard.
I just think he's just makes stupid mistakes mistakes.
Yeah. To defend both of you, yeah, you're right. It's the bad decisions. He does that. So maybe if he doesn't have to think about that. But otherwise, let's look at the rest of the FA Cup. Brighton have got 1-4-0. Forest have won again. Jesus, of course they would. Sunderland and Stoke drawing. This one will be quite interesting to see Man City versus Salford City. We can watch that in a bit. But all right, we've gone on for an hour. All right, go on, Akif. I'll do this for you. So Akif is saying the long balls to Koulibaly would work as well as he's extremely physical in the air. Well, that's possibly true. So let's see if that does work. That could do. JJ a striker against Palace. Who says no? That's a brave one. But he is currently he's scored 2 in this game. But look, let's leave it there, everyone. It has finished in the instant reaction. Blue tinted glasses. Thank you for joining us. It finished Leicester City 6, SIX. Leicester City 6-2 versus QPR. Did we even score 6 last season, guys?
Don't think so. No, we did not.
No.
There you go.
No.
So that has been our best score for a long time. Yeah, cheers, Clemo. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one, everyone. Hopefully, for once, you can enjoy your Saturday night. Thank you for saying that. Have a great one. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you for joining Blue Tinted Glasses. Please like the stream if you did like the content. Tune in tomorrow at 9:30 for Good Morning Foxes, not Bad Morning Foxes, where your host Locks will be talking to you and we'll be talking about this game and what's coming next in the drama that is Leicester City. Thank you so much. Have a good one, and we will see you next time. Bye. Nice.